Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Enhance Your COBie Design Worksheet. My name is Ward. We'll be together along with Nick to show you how we can enhance the COBie Design Worksheet. So this webinar is going to be divided into two parts. The first part is going to be about COBie, where it stands in the AEC industry. Then we're going to have another technical session where we're going to have a demo on Verifi3D to show you how we can enhance the information that we have about COBie and how we can validate it. So before we start, there are some housekeeping rules. You can use the chat section to ask questions, and at the end of this session, we'll have 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. So feel free to post your questions in the chat, and the recordings of this session will be emailed to you after the webinar. Now today, I'm honored to have with us Nick Nisbet, who's the Vice Chair at buildingSMART UK and Ireland and the owner at AEC3. Nick, he's a pioneer in the development of BIM since 1976. And he has been an instrumental part alongside Bill East in the creation of COBie and its integrations with IFC. His extensive experience, of course, includes the enhancement of construction processes and products through information management, as well as significant contributions to standards development such as buildingSMART, ISO, CEN, and BSI. And not to forget to mention that he is the author of the fourth part of ISO 19650, which talks about information management and exchange, and of course the sixth part about exchanging information regarding health and safety. From our end, myself, Turkyeh, I'm the Customer Success Manager of Verifi3D here at Xinaps. I've been working in the industry. I worked on some of the large-scale projects in Middle East and Europe. I'm more involved in BIM model auditing, do some quality control and health for the model checks as well, and common data environment management. Okay, so I will head to you. Nick, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Wood, and thank you for that kind introduction. What I'm going to talk about today is trying to understand what COBie is for and how to use it. COBie was invented around the year 2007, and as Ward said, I worked with Bill East to integrate it with BIM and with IFC, and so the versions that we are talking about today is called COBie 2 or COBie 2.4 to be precise. One of the things that brought it to prominence was that the UK government recognized that it needed to be a better client for built assets and a better asset owner. And in doing that, it devised a strategy that included the requirement for COBie for centrally government funded projects, which would include schools, prisons, courthouses, and quite a few other building types. And it also included some infrastructure types as well, and we'll come to that. So that gave a big impetus for the adoption of COBie in the UK. The scope of the UK government mandate probably represents around 17% of the UK construction sector demand. So it was a substantial contribution. And so it's important to understand COBie as being something that clients may ask for. The point of COBie is that it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the supply side, designers, and in particular constructors, to deliver to the owner operator of the facility the information they need to operate it from day one, to operate and maintain their facility. And in one case, I remember working with the US Army, and we were specifically asked to ensure that they could have the information, the handover information, 3 months before they got the actual physical facility, so that their team could practice operating the facility. It's always an information exchange. That's what the IE in the name stands for. It's a transaction that delivers information. And I think one of the misunderstandings about COBie has been to try and think of it as an application. It is not an application for facility management. It's not an application for building design and construction. It is a vehicle for getting the information from A to B at that handover moment. I think because COBie was introduced along with a lot of pressure to adopt BIM and ISO 19650 or BS 1192 as it was then, many people have misunderstood COBie and think that it is BIM, or that it can meet other purposes other than handover. And that again has made it hard to be successful because there are a lot of things that COBie cannot do. And I look forward to hearing what you may have tried to use COBie for. So a lot of this talk is going to be about what COBie is not. Now, I don't mean to be negative, but because COBie sits alongside a lot of process initiatives around ISO 19650 and a lot of data initiatives around BIM and open BIM, I think there's been a lot of confusion. I've said that it's not a portfolio management system, an asset management system, or a computer-aided facility management application. COBie stands for from construction into operations of buildings and latterly some infrastructure. And the IE, as I say, is an information exchange. One attendee on a training course that I gave very smugly said that COBie stands for you can't operate a building in Excel. And I think he was surprised when I completely agreed with him. You can neither design nor construct nor operate a building in COBie. So what is it for? Well, it's a structured information exchange to let the design and construction side, the supply side, collate information without having to worry about what the owner operator is going to use it for. And in particular, without having to worry about what applications they may have in place. In many cases, that's subject to change, even during the lifetime of a project. But I would say that if the owner-operator doesn't have a CAFM system or an asset management system, then the exercise is pointless. The conventional O&M deliverables will have to do if there is no CAFM system on the receiving end. So you don't need to know what it is, but it's worth making sure that there is a target system, or will be a target system on the other side. Another thing it's not is it is not a digital twin. By digital twin, it can mean many things. But the key characteristic of a digital twin, I think, is a close connection between the physical reality and the virtual or digital reality that we're trying to manage. It's just a snapshot of the information that's been acquired and accumulated during the course of design and construction. If there are additional deliveries of COBie, for example, at the end of the detailed design phase or something like that, or even at the end of concept phase, these are just waypoints, checkpoints on the course, on the path towards meeting that handover deliverable. Yes, so I've made I've made the point that if there is there has to be a system at the other end to load it into, even if you don't know what it is. I suppose the other thing to say is that COBie is not a building information model. It only represents one thing, if we really summarize it, and that's equipment. Now, equipment comes in many forms, but its main characteristic is that it needs to be operated and maintained. And so we can look at what COBie includes, and I can make some points. First of all, if you're going to think of COBie as a means, then one good analogy is that COBie is a suitcase. COBie is a suitcase, the kind of case that photographers have, where there are specific shaped inserts for anything that you want to take with you. So there, in this case, there's a slot for the camera, for the lenses, for the flash devices, and so on and so forth. There is a place for everything that is allowed, but COBie is not an ISO container in which you can transmit or transport almost anything. So we have that clarity, first of all. And having said equipment, I'll give you the 6 little images there. Mechanical equipment, and particularly not ductwork or pipe work, but the major pieces of mechanical equipment that go into a serviced building. The next picture is an electrical cupboard, distribution box. Yes, so there is electrical equipment within a building. The next one is a sanitary fitting, so representing equipment in the plumbing system. And then across the bottom are just 3 semi-architectural, well, just 3 elements that come from the architectural model. One are escalators and lifts, so transport items. The next picture is of a door, and the last is of a window. So thinking about the architectural model, it's very limited in actually what items should go into COBie. The bulk of the contents of COBie will be about the MEP equipment and so on. And you can also see part of the diagram, which is iconic to COBie, that says that looking at the blue box, there is information that by the time that detailed design has been completed are known. And you can see the word component there. You could write equipment there if you wanted to. And surrounding it is the information that gives meaning to each item of equipment. Most equipment is of a, well, equipment is necessarily of a type, a product type. Most equipment is part of systems, and equipment is located in spaces. Those spaces may be grouped in zones and may occur on floors or stories of the building, and there is just one facility that you describe, whether it's a building or a piece of infrastructure, like a segment of road or rail or whatever. So that is the world of COBie. If anyone suggests that it contains other things, they're wrong. Basically, I can think of exceptions. In a domestic extension, you probably wouldn't have any mechanical equipment. I can think of extensions that in the early days, I worked on some existing nuclear power stations where everything was equipment. Every block of concrete, every steel anchor, every cable of the central core of the reactor was a piece of equipment that was inspected, operated, and maintained. But in all other cases, we just say equipment and we mean it. One of the nice things about COBie is that the work has already been done for you. If you're it doesn't actually need any further specification, because there is a document which is called MBIMS version 3, and that gives you a complete list of the objects that are allowed to appear in COBie. In fact, it's a list of exclusions, but the effect is the same. Secondly, you don't need to specify what attributes and properties you want, because that document actually, and the layout of COBie, tells you what attributes you should provide. And there are some rules to back it up. For example, that the things in COBie must have a unique name and must have classification attached to them. Thirdly, you don't need to specify, the client doesn't need to specify, you don't have to work with the client to specify what relationships are going to be represented in COBie, because in fact, probably too small to see, but there probably are only 6 or 7 arrows on the little diagram on the right. And those are the relationships, for example, between component and space, which COBie can represent. And if it's not an arrow on that diagram, then COBie doesn't do it. So the answer is that MBIMS version 3 is, in ISO 19650 terms, the exchange information requirement. There's one small exception to that there are a few fields, few columns that are colored green, which the client may agree to omit if they're not relevant to his or her facility. So apart from those omissions, everything is already specified for you. And so it's an off-the-shelf solution, something that the industry desperately needs in many areas of what it does. But COBie in 2007 got there first. COBie doesn't actually have to be a spreadsheet, although, yeah, it usually is, as this is the most obvious way of making it checkable on both the supply side and readable on the receiving side. For example, you could deliver COBie as an IFC file. And that's permissible, but it is a filtered IFC file, scaled down, shaved down, to only contain the information that COBie is expected to contain. It doesn't have to be Excel. It can use any spreadsheet software that supports the open standard, which is called XLSX, which is a kind of compressed XML. So technically, it's very accessible. The old form of spreadsheet, XLS, is proprietary to Microsoft, and you must not use it for COBie. One, because we're trying to avoid proprietary solutions, and secondly, because the old XLS does not have the capacity to hold the equipment for a large facility. The last thing I'd say is that COBie does not only come from BIM. Much of the design side information should come from BIM by the end of the design stages, and this is what Ward will be talking about shortly. But some of the information just can't be in BIM, and in the current authoring tools we use, with one exception. So the gathering of some of the supporting information like contacts and documents, jobs, spares, and resources, you're going to have to do it separately. Now, there are lots of companies coming forward to offer ways of doing it, but at its very simplest, you've got to think about the fact that you might be merging spreadsheets generated from BIM with spreadsheets you've prepared separately with these pieces of information. Ultimately, BIM should be able to do it, but as I say, there's a limited number of tools that can do it right now. I think the few last points. COBie is not an isolated deliverable. The idea that as part of the handover, you will deliver it with lots of associated documents, product data sheets, general arrangements, maybe even operating manuals. But COBie can contain that document schedule and link it to the object. So if you're going to provide a general arrangement drawing with COBie as part of the handover, then that document should be detailed in the document sheet and should reference the floor, the building story, to which it refers. So it's linked all together. And similarly with product data, you can record you can list the document in COBie and associate it to the type information, the product information that's already in the COBie. And then one last thought. COBie design sheets cannot be exported from BIM until you've added classification information. The facility as a whole, the spaces, and the product types all need to have classification added. Now, in the US, that would be to OmniClass, which is a suite of tables. In the UK, that would be to Uniclass, which is part of the UK government information mandate. And it appears as a requirement in the UK national annexes to ISO 19650. I'll just say there aren't many other classification systems that cover both spaces and product types. So if you're doing COBie, the choice is OmniClass, Uniclass, or are careful. If it's a different one, then choose it carefully. So to sum up, it is vital to develop a repeatable process for creating COBie. So every time you do a project, every time you want to do a trial generation of COBie, you can repeat the process and improve it, check the quality, go around again, or whatever. So 3 stages. You've got to filter your BIM model. If you include reinforcement or walls or slabs or foundations or well, 101 other things, then you will fail. Once you've filtered your information, you must check for gaps and omissions. And then finally, you must lay it out exactly as required in the spreadsheet. If you follow those 3 steps, you then will achieve a better handover. It's that simple. If you want to see the definitions, you can search for NBIM's version 3, COBie, and it will take you to the document. And if you're in a hurry, go straight to page 215. It's a substantial document. Okay, those are the points I want to make. I'm going to hand back to Ward now, who is going to show how Verifi3D can help with that process.
Thank you very much, Nick. That was really insightful. You know, it's good always to understand where COBie stands in the AEC industry, because there are a lot of misconceptions over there. So thank you very much for this insightful thought. Now, in this part of the presentation, I'm going to walk you through Verifi3D and how we can validate the COBie information that we have in our BIM model. Now, real quick, let's just show you a bit about, give you some introduction about Verifi3D. So Verifi3D is a cloud-based model checkers. It offers an integrated workflow. Of course, you can add your project, so you can have your projects on different CDEs, and then you can collect this project on Verifi3D, so you can perform your model checking and your model coordination processes over there. And it's all in a browser-based environment. Now, Verifi3D comes in different features. However, in this webinar, we're going to focus on a couple of them just to make sure that the COBie information are correct, and you know that there are no inconsistency over there. Now, the features of Verifi3D is that it is a browser-based model checker. It has model coordination, model checking features where you can create different federated models, because it supports different file formats. So you're not only working with Revit, but you're also working with IFC, DWG files. You have different types of checks. So you have the geometric checks, free space, and all of that. But for this webinar, we're focusing on the parametric check. And of course, we have our dedicated data viewer, where you can create customizable data sets and multi-level grouping. And using the data viewer, we're going to show you how will the COBie, I will just call it like a spreadsheet, but you know, the COBie table, how will it look like on Verifi3D. And then, of course, you can report issues by exporting into Excel, CSV, or just have a BCF file. So these are the features that we're going to focus on this webinar. Of course, we have our Verifi3D Exchange. This is our template portal, so you can have your COBie checks, your COBie rule checks, along with the filter to have the included elements according to the national BIM standards. Of course, you can have them in a template portal, and then you can add them to your project so you can validate it. So this is the home screen of Verifi3D. As you can see, Verifi3D is a collaborative environment, so you can add your team members to your account, and you can just put them all in one environment where you can do model checking. So we're going to go to projects, and as you can see, I already have different models coming from different common data environments. You can add you can just choose the CDE that you're working with, and then you can add your projects from there accordingly. If you would like to know more about the integration and how it looks like, and what are the main features with this integration, feel free to book a demo. At the end of the session, we'll have some links so you can check them out. For this webinar, we're going to choose a SharePoint, or let's say a project coming from our CDE from SharePoint, and it's a COBie example project. And we're going to show you how we can validate the COBie information over there. So we can go to models. And this is where the magic happens. This is our model checking interface. So I'm going to load some IFC files. Now, of course, this is one of the things that Nick just mentioned earlier, that one of the misconceptions is that people consider Revit as their source for COBie. That's not true. You can work also with IFC. So if you have an IFC file, you can collect the attributes from there, and then you can create your COBie table. So I've loaded an IFC example project from here. So the first thing that we need to make sure that we're collecting, or let's say we're getting the right elements, okay? So I'm just gonna go to data viewer. And in the data viewer, as you can see, I'm getting all the information for all the attributes and all the elements that I have in the model. But for COBie, I need to specify the elements. As Nick mentioned, we're focusing on equipment, on devices, mechanical equipment, electrical equipment. So these are the elements that we're focusing on. So if I go to my data views and then I chose the IFC COBie component worksheet, which is considered here as a data view, of course, and then I refresh, you can see that Verified has already filtered out the elements that are considered in the COBie component worksheet, let's say. So you can see the information over here. So what we're going to do in this webinar is that we're going to just perform simple checks to make sure that the elements that we're having over here, or let's say the attributes, the values, are correct, and there are no inconsistency in the information. So this is the COBie component worksheet. If I run the facility worksheet, it will retrieve the information for this project only, as you can see. So this is a medical dental clinic project. If I run the floor worksheet, and then I refresh, it will show you the floors that we're having, of course, with all their information. If I go to the spaces as well, it will show you the spaces in the 3D viewer. And at the same time, it's going to give you all the information in the data viewer. Okay, now if I go to filters, you can see that I already have from the national BIM standards, there are some filters that we're already using. For instance, as you can see, these are all the elements that I have in the model, but there are some included elements. According to the national BIM standard, table 101 and 102, there are some specific elements that we need to include when creating the component worksheet or the type worksheet, or it could be, let's say the design worksheets, okay? So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna run this one. And there you go. These are the elements that we're checking and we're getting the information from, so we can create the data table that we're having down below. Yes. So the way we set this up, as you can see, we've included all the elements that, let's say, that are excluded from the national BIM standard, and using some of the operators that we have on Verified, you can retrieve the opposite elements, of course. Now, to know more how we set this up and how the rules, of course, you can book a demo and we can show you that in detail. But what I'm going to do over here is that if you click on Add Filters for Classification Codes, you can have your own COBie template, which you can add, of course, from your template portal. I'm going to show you our template portal in a bit. Then you can add it to your project, and then you will classify your elements accordingly. So I'm going to go to Rules. Let's go real quick and show the component worksheet one more time. Okay, we're retrieving the information. Okay, yes, there you go. So these are the rule checks. These are just example rule checks. So one of them is for the component worksheet. So here we're checking if the component, or let's say the space for the component worksheet, as you can see, which means this column, we're making sure that there are no empty values over there. So I'm just going to run it. And as you can see, I have 106 elements in total, which are not assigned to a space. So this is something that we can report, of course, and then we can go back to our native files so we can fix the issue from there. And using the data viewer, you can see which elements exactly. So if I group them according to the results, and then just to have like a better understanding, I will add the component space attribute. So we're just gonna have this one, save. Then as you can see over here, this is empty. But if I check the past ones, you can see that they are assigned to the correct values. So this is one use case. The second one is the created on and created by rule set. So if we go back to the data viewer over here to see the COBie component worksheet, so we have created by and created on. So the use case over here is that we're checking if the emails, because like in the created by, you need to have the people who created this element, and we don't put their names, but we put their emails. Okay, so we're making sure that the email is correct. Okay, now the way we do that, if I click on edit, as you can see that we're checking if the created by ends with, this value. Okay, and then we run it. Okay, there you go. You can see that some elements are not written properly. So if I go to the failed ones, let me remove the space column and then add the created by. Then click on save. Then I just drop it one more time, and you can see that, the elements that I was checking, the value that I was checking according to is us.army.mel. Okay, you can see over here that we have a different value. So this is something that we can point out. Of course, the results that exist in the data viewer can be exported into CSV and Excel if you want to get more results, more information about the elements that we're having in the 3D viewer. You can export them. So let's say it makes the whole thing easier for you when fixing the issue. So this is for the created by. Another one is the created on. So if we go back one more time to the data viewer, you can see that in the created on, we have this ISO standard, or this, the format, the ISO format for the date and time. So using verified, if I just show you real quick how we set up this rule. So we're checking the created on and then equals to this structure. So we're using the wildcards structure over here, or format. We click on save and then we run it. And as you can see, we have 3 elements only, which don't follow the same format. So if I click on the drop down, and then I add the created on column, and then click on save, you will see that it's empty. But if I click on the other ones, you can see that this is the correct format that I'm looking for. Okay. And the last rule check that we have is the space description. So if I go to the data viewer and then I run the space worksheet, then I just refresh real quick. As you can see, I have the description column. In the description column, this rule is making sure that there are no, I would say, like null values or empty values. So if I run it, verified will just detect each space, and then we'll make sure that the description is there or not. Okay. So as you can see, we don't have any like red elements, which means that all the spaces are assigned to the correct description. So if I just add, just to make sure, let's remove this one and then add description over here, click on save, and then we click on the drop down. You can see all the descriptions are written correctly. Okay. Now, of course, if you have any questions, just drop it in the chat. We will check it afterwards. If you have any questions also on the rule checks, if you would like to know more how we set this up, we can do it in a separate demo, of course. Now in the verified exchange platform, so this is our verified exchange, which is our template portal. If you click on go to library over here, yes, you can see that we already set up some templates that you can work with. Of course, there are other templates for our users, but these are the shared ones that we're doing. So we have the Dutch building standards, of course, Revit categories, Revit phases, and we have our COBie template. So whether you're working with IFC, then you will work with the IFC template. And if you're working with Revit, of course, you will use the Revit template as well. If you would like to know more about COBie and where it stands in the industry, we've recently collaborated with Nick. He wrote such a like an insightful blog on our website about decoding COBie and to understand the whole workflow with it. So you can just click on the screen to access this blog. Also, you can reach out to Nick via his LinkedIn or via his email. You can reach out. You can just click on the screen. The links are clickable. Also, if you want to know more about Verified or you would like to set up your, let's say your COBie template or any other template, you can sign up for a demo and I can show you how we can do that. And you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can reach out on my Xinaps email. Also, if you have any more questions regarding about Verified and you would like to reach out to our sales team, you can just click on the email sales@verified.com and our sales team will contact. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you very much, Nick, for your time also today. That was really, insightful, really great. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you, everyone. And we wish you have a great evening. Thank you.